Hi, my name is Patrick Williams, and I'm a founding member of One Vision. And today I'm with Jamie Greenleaf from Tilt and Karen and Julie, and we're going to discuss brokers' compensation and how its application applies under the Consolidated Appropriations Act. So Jamie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thanks. And Karen, great first video that we did, and we kind of ended off with that 408B2 reg. Maybe you can explain or expand upon the 408B2 regs kind of hitting the healthcare industry.
Yes, well, the 408B2 regs were regulations, and they were passed by the Department of Labor primarily to create disclosure of information that fiduciaries need to know in order to determine whether or not their 401k plans, their service agreements are reasonable and that the compensation is reasonable. Otherwise, you've engaged in a prohibited transaction and it's imprudent. Because in the 401k context, of course, all the fees that you pay impact what you're going to get in retirement. Well, those same rules are pretty much mirrored in this legislation, which writes into 408B2 the disclosure requirements with respect to brokers and consultants. And the purpose of that is to give fiduciaries that same information that they need about cost and services to make the determination whether their agreements with their service providers are prudent, reasonable, and whether or not they violate the prohibited transaction provisions of 406. So I think that it's really an important move forward. And I think that just like fiduciaries were a bit asleep at the switch on the fees that they were paying in the 401k context, they've been definitely asleep at the switch at the fees that they're paying in the healthcare context, which come back to haunt them.
Great. So Julie, I just want to confirm, when does this piece of the legislation go into effect, and what size plans need to receive this disclosure notice?
These disclosures go into effect in 6 days. 6 days, everyone. December 27th, 2021. There is no deferral, no enforcement deferral. And while we anticipate guidance being issued at some point by the Department of Labor on implementation, you need to start being in compliance right away. It applies to any ERISA covered plan. It doesn't matter what size it is. It doesn't matter if it's fully insured or health insured. The only difference there will be who is going to make these disclosures. So in a fully insured plan, it's likely that the insurer will be able to make all of those disclosures on behalf of the plan. Although again, we need further guidance, but the employer is going to be responsible for marshaling all of these disclosures when it comes to self-funded plans. And the disclosures aren't just broker disclosures, just to be clear, they're broker and consultant disclosures, and they're, encompass broad categories of service providers. That is where guidance is going to need to be issued, but until on exactly who needs to disclose, but until such guidance is issued, employers should take the position that every service provider to their plan needs to disclose. If the goal, as Karen was saying, is to be able to assess whether the costs the plan is paying are reasonable or not, then it wouldn't make sense to carve out some of the costs that the plan is paying. So I would take the position up front that it applies to all covered service providers, and we'll have to see what the guidance says going forward. So what does that mean? It means that as of December 27th, you cannot enter into, you cannot extend, you cannot renegotiate, you cannot do anything with a contract or an arrangement to provide services to a plan without obtaining these disclosures from the service providers. And if they don't disclose, you, the employer, have an affirmative obligation to, in writing, request them. If you are ignored or they are still not disclosed, then you have an obligation to report to the DOL.
Thank you. So it sounds like there's a lot that employers need to do in the next 6 days, which can be a little daunting. And determining reasonableness clearly in the retirement space meant that we needed to benchmark our fees and services. So I would assume it will be very similar in the healthcare space as well. We thank you both for joining us today to talk about broker disclosures and consultants.
Thanks, Jamie. As we stated before, we're creating further videos exploring the ramifications of the Consolidated Appropriations Act. Thanks for your participation today. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn at One Vision Analytics and our website, www.1v-a.com, or Berger Montague at www.bergermontague.com. Thank you.